I'm Africa Harrigan for Legit TV. Members of the 30th Legislature convened in special session to discuss the bill relating to the school year period and to repeal Section 61. The special session was called by Governor John deJongh Jr. Some of the testifiers are stating that expanding the school year will benefit students and teachers. However, there's the issue of funding this, of the lack of $3.1 million. What is your position on this?
Well, we can't ignore the reality of the economics of the time that we're living in. And if the education administration and the unions are advocating to repeal, in part, but not limited to, the real economics of what's going on, how could we not hear their cry? They are both on the same page on this, which is unusual to have a union and an administration working together. So to me, that relationship that's being fostered by this issue could lead to something more favorable, and you never know, they could actually have a more amicable working situations going forward. But legislators are not micromanagers. We have to be, I believe, take information from the experts, assess that information, and then deal with it accordingly. We should not be in the business, in my opinion, going against just because for some reason that's really not quantifiable. Like most of the testifiers are saying, there's no quantifiable evidence to support expanding the school year is going to produce a better student. Then we talk about the mainland. Many school systems in the mainland do not end a semester in December. My son lives in Hampton, Virginia. His semester ends in January. So this thing where they're interjecting that into a discussion at this time, I think is not a good position to have. The reality is finances. You institute something, you have to pay for it. Right now, our deficit is $40 million. If we were to enact what this thing is asking us to do, that would take our budget to $43 million, plus all of the other costs associated with moving the janitors, the other unions within the Department of Education. It's not just teachers, it's the school system. So I think that if it's a system, we have to trust the experts that are tasked with managing the system. And based on their expertise, we cannot afford the financial responsibilities associated with such a vast and a drastic movement. Some people are saying that children don't study for Christmas time and people want to party on St. Croix and blah, blah. To me, when it went in that direction, that was juvenile. And you're asking adults to make an adult decision, but we are interjecting juvenile commentary. That just made it distasteful to me. But I want to stay above board. We must put dollars and cents on the paper and be able to put it in a paycheck and a bank account, write the check, deposit the money, and have it in there before we do anything else, in my opinion.
You expressed to me that you were torn with the issue. Can you explain to us why?
Yeah, I am torn. It's changing the calendar makes logical sense. It seems to make sense for the teachers as well as the students. There's been some really compelling testimony today from different people, different stakeholders, expressing why it needs to change. And I agree, but the reality is we are in a fiscal crisis, and that information is also being reminded to us today. And so as legislators, certainly we have to make sound policies, but I think first and foremost we have to be fiscally responsible. So I'm going to keep listening and wait and decide exactly how I'm going to vote. I do hope that someday we can implement this change. If we can't do it this year, it definitely needs to happen. As Deborah Gottlieb just reminded us, Department of Education just took a $9 million hit. So I think we have to be realistic in our decisions today. So like I said, I'm going to wait and cast my vote when the time is right.
The 29th Legislature overrode the governor's veto. The Department of Education had a year and a half to plan for the school year for this measure. Do you believe that was enough time?
Actually, the Department of Education had more than a year and a half from the first measure being overridden by the 29th legislature, because you're talking about the override of the 29th legislature into the 30th legislature, which also voted to delay the school calendar another entire school year. And both together would be over 3 years. And in my estimation, the Department of Education has failed to sit to the table and come up with a proper plan of implementation. But this measure, all in all, benefits both students and teachers, and it needs to be implemented. We could get beyond the finances and do what's best, especially for our students.
How much time do you think the Department of Education really needs to be able to get on board with this bill?
Well, first of all, if they're going to just keep sitting on the finances, then they need to sit to the table with their financial personnel and come up with an actual number rather than just picking numbers randomly. We've heard 3.1 million, we've heard 12 million. Today we've heard another set of monies again. And I'm saying, let's sit to the table and come up with that dollar figure. And if it must be an implementation phase over the years, then so be it. And this way it will be at a lower cost each year for the implementation.
Lawmakers did not approve the bill. You can follow the happenings of the legislature and like us on Facebook at 30th Legislature. Subscribe to us on YouTube at LegVI1 and follow us on Twitter at LegislatureVI. Thank you for tuning in to Legit's coverage of today's special session called by Governor John P. DeJongh Jr. I'm Africah Harrigan for Legit TV.